San Francisco was a city built on gold, ambition, and unashamed greed. In the 1850s, the streets glittered with the dreams of men who believed fortune belonged only to the bold, and usually only to the white. New wealth rose overnight. Mansions sprouted on Nob Hill like monuments to sudden success. Men who had struck gold huddled around mahogany tables, puffed cigars thick with arrogance, and talked about shaping the future of California. And in the quiet edges of those rooms, where no one bothered to look twice, stood the one person playing a game larger than theirs. Mary Ellen Pleasant. To them, she was just the black woman who refilled their glasses, cleared their silverware, and poured their tea. They assumed she didn't understand their conversations. They assumed she didn't matter. They assumed wrong, because Pleasant wasn't in those rooms by chance. She was there by design. Every night, while the powerful men of San Francisco congratulated themselves on their brilliance, Pleasant stood still and listened. Their voices roared with pride as they discussed which banks would collapse and which would soar, where untouched land would soon be worth more than gold, which shipping routes would define the next decade, which businesses were secretly dying and which ones were about to explode. They spoke freely around her because they believed she was invisible. But Pleasant had a razor-sharp mind and a memory that never forgot a detail. She wasn't just overhearing gossip. She was collecting ammunition. She was mapping the future of the city, quietly, patiently, intentionally. When she stepped out of those mansions at night, Pleasant didn't walk away with tips. She walked away with knowledge. And knowledge was currency she used with precision. She began investing in businesses that grew far beyond what anyone expected. A laundry that catered to minors. A boarding house where exhausted dock workers paid in advance. Small restaurants and supply shops positioned exactly where new waves of wealth would pass through. These were not random decisions. These were surgical strikes. And in the background stood Thomas Bell, a banker who knew Pleasant's mind was more valuable than half the city's advisors. He became her silent partner, the only man who saw the scope of her plans. Together, they built a fortune hidden behind ordinary storefronts. Money multiplied quietly, safely, away from the racist financial system designed to keep black people poor and powerless. By the time San Francisco's elite realized Pleasant wasn't simply the help, she was already richer than most of them. They had underestimated the wrong woman. But wealth, to Pleasant, was never the final goal. It was a weapon. She had lived through slavery. She had seen the cruelty, the humiliation, the tearing apart of lives. She swore she would spend her resources fighting that system, no matter the cost. And she meant it. Pleasant used her fortune to fund the Underground Railroad on the West Coast, pay for the safe transport of enslaved people to freedom, finance court cases that challenged racist policies, support abolitionist leaders from behind the curtain, build safe houses where black people could start new lives. In an era where helping enslaved people escape could lead to imprisonment or death, Pleasant didn't hesitate. She didn't whisper her beliefs. She acted with boldness. She understood something the city didn't. Real power is not loud. It is strategic. It is deliberate. It is fearless. In 1866, Pleasant boarded a San Francisco streetcar. She had paid her fare. She had every legal right to sit where she chose. Yet the conductor looked at her and saw not a customer, not a person, just a black woman he believed should know her place. He ordered her off the car. Pleasant refused. The conductor dragged her into the street. Most people would have walked away in humiliation. Most people would have held their anger inside. Most people would have feared the consequences. But Mary Ellen Pleasant wasn't most people. She sued the streetcar company. Not quietly, not secretly, not for compensation. She sued to destroy the policy itself. She fought that case with the same precision she used to build her businesses. And she won, desegregating San Francisco's public transportation nearly a century before Rosa Parks. Her message was clear: power respects power, and she had earned hers. As her influence grew, so did the fear of the city's elite. They could not understand how a black woman in the 1800s held this much power. And what people cannot understand, they often choose to destroy. Newspapers began attacking her. They called her a voodoo queen. They whispered that she controlled men through dark magic. They invented rumors about her wealth, her friends, her motives. They created myths because they could not face the truth. She was simply smarter than them. Her success was not luck. Her influence was not witchcraft. Her wealth was not an accident. She was a strategist, a fighter, a woman who read the world like a map and always walked 5 steps ahead. Pleasant continued investing, continued fighting, continued protecting those who had no voice. She built housing. She supported black businesses. She helped create pathways for people who the law insisted should remain invisible. She was a force the West Coast had never seen before. Her favorite phrase summed up her entire philosophy. "I'd rather be a corpse than a coward." And she lived those words every day, battling a racist society, a hostile press, a legal system designed to crush women, a city terrified of her power. Yet she remained unbroken. Though some of her wealth was intentionally hidden to prevent it from being seized, many historians believe Mary Ellen Pleasant stands as one of the first black female self-made millionaires in American history. She built her empire in a time when black women weren't allowed to vote, couldn't enter most hotels, and were expected to remain silent. Instead, she reshaped the city. She outplayed every man who dismissed her. She shifted the future. She changed the destiny of countless lives. Mary Ellen Pleasant didn't ask for permission. She didn't wait for validation. She didn't beg for recognition. She carved her name into the bones of a city that pretended not to see her. And today, her legacy whispers a reminder to every person who has ever been underestimated. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one rewriting the rules of the world.